Good news to all you Auburn recruiting and transfer portal junkies. We've got another commitment and signing to talk about in the 2025 transfer portal for Auburn football at the offensive side of the ball and the offensive line. So we're going to jump in that today. My name is Kyle here at E2C Network, where we share the Auburn experience. Thank you so much for joining us. Make sure that you're following, subscribing wherever you're watching this, and hitting that like button if you enjoy this type of content. Today, we're going to be talking about brand new and the fourth one in the class for the 2025 transfer portal, offensive lineman Xavier Chaplin out of Virginia Tech. We're going to be adding someone at that offensive tackle position to help bolster things up for a brand new quarterback room. Today, we're going to talk about, obviously, the quick facts that you need to know about Xavier and potentially what it means for him, for Auburn football going forward. So let's start with the quick facts here. Looking at Virginia Tech's website, you're going to see him listed at 323 pounds, 6'7". I would say that's an offensive tackle if you were not sure about that already. With his eligibility that he has left, he came into right out of high school from South Carolina to play for Virginia Tech and redshirted his first year in 2022 and then started every game since that point as a redshirt freshman and a redshirt sophomore, which would make him a redshirt junior coming in to Auburn University. Now, I do always want to remind you guys where they come from. I mentioned already South Carolina. Auburn doesn't dip into South Carolina a whole lot, but it's nice to have someone out of there to potentially help us build recruiting pipelines into that state, since it's not that too far off from us anyway, and we're not foreign to go into the Carolinas as we like to go into the subsidiary Southeast when we can. Now, let's look at maybe some stats, some storylines and some stats here. It's hard to do that with offensive linemen because, it's depending on who you look at. Some people do measure these type of things. What I like to look at, and I'm going to encourage you to do, is go look at Virginia Tech's offensive stats on ESPN, and I'm going to pull those up for me now, and I'll put them up here on the screen for you just to scroll through if you'd like to, or freeze frame. Things that I look for is how did they rush, how did they protect the quarterback. Looking at their rushing attempts, you're going to see that they were averaging 4.9 per carry. I know it's not just him we're talking about in that regard, but that's at least what they were able to do. And obviously 2,245 rushing yards. They gave up 30 sacks as a unit. I've seen it reported out there that for him specifically in terms of statistics, that he did not allow any quarterback hits, only 2 sacks, and somewhere in the neighborhood of only a handful, maybe upwards of 10 quarterback hurries. So that should give you an idea about how the team, how he as an individual did as an offensive tackle. I think this is probably one of the more highly regarded opportunities for Auburn to get somebody of a high caliber with experience to bolster up that offensive line. So let's talk about, what does it mean? What does it mean for him? What does it mean for Auburn football? The class, this is what we start with. As I mentioned, this is the fourth one in the transfer portal at the time of his commitment and signing. Obviously, things have probably changed maybe by the time that you've seen this, but he was the fourth at that time. He's the first offensive lineman and the third offensive-wise that we've taken in this class. You should check out our one about our quarterback, our running back, and our punter that we've already had videos about, and see if you're interested in learning about those guys too, if you haven't done so already. Now, obviously, I don't think Auburn's going to be bringing in a ton of offensive linemen this year. They've got quite a group of young, talented guys that have already been seeing a great playing time. But the reality is they still have some pieces that need to be filled. And I think that's what's happening here at offensive tackle, probably left tackle, the all-important position, especially if you've got a right-handed quarterback, the blind side, so to speak. So if you think about this, we talked about what is supposedly some stats out there about him not allowing a lot of hurries, sacks, or hits on the quarterback during his time at Virginia Tech. You got to feel real good if you're Jackson Arnold about having this guy potentially come in with his experience, with his opportunity probably to continue to grow and protect your blind side. So I think that's probably what we're going to do. Dylan Wade has announced that he's going to come back. And I think obviously having to insert him back over there, unfortunately, when some things didn't work out at the offensive tackle position this year, this will afford him the opportunity maybe to slide back into some other areas that he's more comfortable with if this works out for Xavier Chaplin. Now, does this mean that we're done with offensive lineman recruiting? Doesn't feel like we ever are with offensive linemen. If there's someone out there that can help us, I certainly believe we're going to bring them in. But I will continue to reiterate that I think Auburn's got a very good, talented group not just across the offensive line, but the offensive tackle position that's ready to start getting more playing time as well. But you do need to bring these pieces in. So I would say we're not done yet, but this definitely feels like another check mark on those clear, glaring needs that Auburn had on the offensive side of the ball, too. And Xavier Chaplin is going to help us fill those for 2025. So that's your facts, and obviously what it means for him in Auburn football. We'll talk about him more in the future. Thanks for hanging out with us today and being part of our little family within the Auburn family. Till we talk to you again, War Eagle.